Welcome to How I Became a Theosophist. I'm Dan Smola with the Henry S. Olcott Memorial Library.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a little program we do from the library to help promote community amongst Theosophists. And our very, very special traveling guest today is Rose A. Bates. Rose, welcome.
I did like how you said that middle part.
A period?
Yeah, because usually people just say Rose A. Bates, but I usually don't use my initial, but very punctual.
Very punctual. And
Literally.
what
Literally.
does the A stand for?
My middle name.
Ah, very good. Okay.
But my middle name is not A. It's the initial for my middle name.
Oh,
which
okay.
I think most people understand that.
Okay.
It's Anne.
Anne. Rose Ann Bates.
Yes. I'm not Rose Ann Bates. I'm Rose Ann Bates.
Oh, you're Rose and Bates.
No, not and. No.
Oh, Rose.
I'm sorry. I what I've
Oh.
done is because some people have the first name Roseanne, and then their last name Bates. So
Excuse me. This is really hard. Oh, that's...
you can't recreate that. Yeah.
No, that's dangerous. Okay. Excuses. We've never had a third-degree burn before in the interview series. So thank you for that.
You know, you can add cold water to it.
To the tea? And what would happen?
It would make it so you could drink it without burning yourself.
Ah, okay. So obviously science is a big part of your psyche. It's both the mysticism and science. But I won't answer
I'm
for you.
not sure that's really science. It's kind of common sense.
Is there a difference between common sense and science?
Not really.
Okay. we're off to a fast start here, aren't we? Okay. So Rose.
You're making
I won't spill
noise.
it.
You will spill it on yourself, and then it would splash on me and burn me.
All right. Good point. I'll keep it on the left here.
Okay.
Rose.
Yeah.
Can I call you Anne?
No.
Um.
No, I like Rose.
Okay. How did you come to Theosophy?
How did I come to Theosophy? Well, you mean this life or last lives?
Oh,
Or
very good.
to
Well,
the
let's
side?
start with this life, and then we can talk about past lives. I've got extra tapes.
Well, I wish I knew my past lives, but
Mhm.
because then I could really. But it's obviously, for me anyway, a continuation from something from a long time ago.
Mm.
Well, I don't know if my last life, but we have these cycles. I was born into an esoteric family, and I've been interested in the esoteric ever since I can remember.
Your parents were interested in...
My father actually was introduced to, the very first person he met when he left home was a Theosophist. And he was only 16 years old at the time. And my father came from a fundamentalist religious family, and it was this huge eye-opener for him because he had never heard of such things. And he gave him questions like, if God created everything and God's all good, then who created evil? So it's like, And so, that kind of got him started on, ageless wisdom.
So your dad also very young.
Yeah.
And incidentally, we're doing this from the International Theosophical Conference. So that explains why... I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
But that explains why Rose is here, A.
Yes.
Because Rose doesn't work here, or
You can just call
come
me
here.
Rose. You want to call me Rose.
Roseanne. That explains why Rose is here, but why Rose is here, that is on this chair in front of the forest, is because we're at the conference and everything is buzzing. People are using different rooms, and usually we're in the current room, and today we're in the children's area, the new children's area with the forest behind us.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, thank you. And so let's talk about your
Childhood?
Yeah.
Mm.
Because very early you were interested in this material.
Yes, and my parents are Rosicrucians, part of the AMWORK, part of the Rosicrucian. I know there's several Rosicrucian traditions, so for the AMWORK. Ancient Mystical Order Rosicrucis.
And that's where you think that's where your name came from, Rose?
Actually, it is.
Yes. Very nice.
My father admitted.
Yeah. And
Because at the time they were going to Rose Chapter when I was born, so how appropriate. We'll name her Rose.
so there was always, you mentioned in the pre-interview, you mentioned that the Secret Doctrine was around, other esoteric writings were around, and you kind of glanced at them. And then you had a sort of opportunity at the age of around 13 to kind of go deeper.
Well, I would always hear also in the house we had Secret Doctrine, all the Alice Bailey books, and some Theosophical books other than the Secret Doctrine. And I'd always hear my parents, they'd be in these deep discussions, talking about these metaphysical things. And so at a very early age, I'm exposed to this. I was familiar with terms, so all the terms, some of the terms, masters and those sort of things. I always believed in reincarnation since I can remember, And one time we were in, my first exposure, I suppose, was, I was in a Rosicrucian library, and, sorry. I was in a...
Hold on, sorry.
Oh, we're gonna have to edit
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Rose. I'm so sorry. Usually, I will edit it. Usually that's why we're in the current room. We're locked in there. So
put up a little
sorry.
sign. We're doing interview, no talking.
What I'll do is I'll just stand up and say I'm so sorry. No, I'm sorry. You were really on a roll there. So Rosicrucian Library.
Yes, I'm in the Rosicrucian Library, and they've got not as big as this, but they've got like hundreds, maybe thousands. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they'd have over I could say thousands of books. I guess I don't know. I didn't count them. But anyways, I'm searching through all the titles.
What age were you?
Oh, like 12.
12.
Yeah, and I see this thin little blue book, light blue. It was by I don't know how to pronounce his name, Jedidarsa?
Yeah, Jinnarajadasa.
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 And I didn't even attempt to pronounce it when I'm 12,
Right, but try it now.
Jinnarajadasa.
One more. No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But anyways, it was it was either, I don't think it said Mahatma letters, I think it was letters from the Masters of Wisdom.
Okay, yeah.
Something, yeah, I like that. And because I had already heard my parents talk about the adepts or masters, and I really wanted to know about KH. Who's this Kutumi guy, KH? So I started reading his letters, and
so at age 12, you went on this intense search for KH.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah.
So I'm reading something right into his chelas, and I had some of I didn't understand what they were talking about in the letters because it was reference to certain things going on at that time, and so that part I couldn't follow because I didn't have the history of what they were talking about. But there'd be little tidbits in there of certain phrases and things that really, I kept inspired. It was inspiring.
Seeds were planted.
Well, they're sprouting.
They were sprouting. So the seeds were planted right away.
Or from past lives.
Past lives, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, because you obviously had a lot of momentum in this, coming into this life, and
I feel so fortunate, because what if I was born out in some wilderness, which I was, well, sort of, but what, you know what I mean? Like, where there's no internet,
spiritual wilderness,
no books, no, nothing that,
yeah.
So I feel very fortunate in that
and to be
respect.
exposed to this stuff at such a young age, when you are so open.
But then also my brothers who had the same exposure, but they didn't quite gravitate to it like I did. So it's not like it was a religion or that we were forced to study this and read it. We were not ordered to do anything or told to read anything. It was just something, it was up, it was just there, and it was, if we were interested, it was there for us to use. But so it was never something that was like dogmatic in the family. Oh, you gotta study this, you gotta read this. It was just yeah.
And so your brothers, are they interested in esoteric?
One is, one isn't.
Okay. Okay.
One is going along the scientific path.
Okay.
And he's, trying to figure things out through science, which is good. And the other one is sort of in a life of Oh, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this if he sees.
We can edit. It's
Ah, it's okay.
non-linear.
He's, in my opinion, just my opinion. No offense now if you're watching. He's going through a life of recapitulation, or recapulation. They were saying at the conference.
It's like this all over his shirt. No, that's regurgitation.
Yeah.
So no, but he's remembering.
Well, in my opinion, he's just. I mean, he is interested in. I don't like. He likes Eckhart Tolle, and he likes, which is very similar. But he's. Oh, why are we talking about him?
It's okay. But I mean, I think it's very interesting that you grew up in this spiritually idyllic family, and
Ooh, I don't know about that word.
spiritually, you had the opportunity was there to go deep into spirituality if you want it. It's like what people say, right?
Yeah.
If you're, the Buddhists say if you're born in a human body, you have this incredible opportunity, and if you're born in a family like this, where you at least have a chance if you want to, early on to kind of get to know this material. But we don't have to talk about your brother. But have you had any intuitions about past life?
Now we're going to talk about my brother.
Yes, that's what I meant. What do you think about your?
Oh
about your?
boy, that's a good question.
I hate to interrupt, but we're going to have to leave.
Yes.
These rare books that are for sale.
Yes.
Are you the only one here?
You can just leave if you want to pay for them. You mean? You can leave the money in the jar on the table.
Yeah, I can leave a check too.
Sure.
Yeah, are these your best prices? These
Uh,
are 25 a piece.
you can give us what you think is fair.
No, I don't know what's fair.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do. You do. We trust you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I would reduce.
How about 20 each?
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. Thank
Okay.
you. You read my mind.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
But shall we continue the last thought
Please.
right there? Well, there's
Thank
two
you.
last thoughts.
Okay.
I know where I left off. The most recent last thought is about the grounds. I took a walk this morning around the grounds, and I got to see the big arch because I wanted to see the arch because I've seen the photos of it. And I noticed when you walk through the arch, it doesn't really matter if it's an arch or not, but you walk towards on the straight side, there is definitely a distinct difference that you feel when you cross that boundary.
Really?
Yes, and when
Really?
you cross back on this side, it's like two different worlds.
Very
And not
cool.
like in a really extreme way, but
No,
a
I
subtle
know.
way.
Yeah, very
And I had the
interesting.
same experience a couple of days ago when we went out on Geneva Street. We walked
Uh-huh.
past the Quest bookstore.
Really?
We crossed the street. It's like, it's different. There is definitely a sharp, strong difference.
Wow. Yeah. Well, a lot of people are attracted to walk around here because the grounds are so special. I grew up sort of in this area, and I used to come here, and I didn't know why. Yeah.
But you were talking about nature's Davids or spirits.
Yes.
So maybe, I don't profess to know much about them or see them or anything, but maybe that's the influence you're feeling. That there's one great big one or a bunch of little ones or whatever, and they're like, okay, this is their domain, and then outside that line or boundary, it's something else, and you feel that quality of the nature, David or spirit.
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. Yeah. And then the other thought we were going to continue was about your early introduction to theosophy or to esoteric spirituality. You had mentioned that feverish hunt
Yeah.
for KH.
I had this when I was just for as long as I can remember. So, yeah, and it's also come up recently in my life since I've had it's a little bit of a drought,
Yeah.
and I've kind of gotten back on track, and I feel so I wasted the last 5 years or whatever because I wasn't studying as intently as I could have been.
Right. And so now I know you're studying very intently. But let's talk a little bit about your kind of unique and very interesting situation, which is you travel.
I did not get to finish the story though.
My bad. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry if I'm being a bit domineering. I'm
No.
Aries, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just being myself. I'm
Okay.
Aries.
Okay.
Sun sign.
Aries?
Aries sun sign, yes. I won't tell you my rising sign because that's secret.
What? No, why? Isn't the rising sign sort of? It's not. We all see it, right? Isn't that sort of your?
Yeah. All right, rising sign, Cancer.
Cancer. And what is it that we see?
Well, that depends on which astrological interpretations and education you've grown up with, because there's different people say different things.
So
things about
I'm
that.
guessing part of your esoteric spiritual interests might include Alice Bailey.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's what I was going to get to. So
Okay.
I guess I'm carrying around this Mahatma Letter book. I kind of checked it out from the library a bit longer than I was supposed to. I had it for several months, and I don't even know if I officially checked it out. I might have just stolen. I did return it though, but it was a while later, a long while later. And I had it sitting on my desk in my room, and yeah, it was my little friend.
Yeah.
So, but then also around that time, I picked up Alice Bailey's The Unfinished Autobiography. I read like the first 2 chapters, and then I put it down. And then it wasn't until like a year later, and I was like 13, I picked it up again, and I read the whole book through.
Wow.
And then when I read it through, and then I got to the end part where she talks about, well, for those that are not familiar with Alice Bailey, it was sort of, and I can talk about this, right?
Please. Yeah.
Was she? Well, now I have to really explain it, because I can't
Sure.
just say something, because then people might get the wrong idea.
It's okay.
Well, she talks about how in the end of her unfinished autobiography, she talks about how she got involved in esotericism, and she came from a fundamentalist family as well, which is quite interesting. And she went through all these life crises and things to get to a certain point where she started thinking and questioning and stuff. And she says one day she was she was at the Theosophist, and she was in California at the time, I think at the Crotona.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was working in the center there. And one day she went out on a hill, and she said she heard this note of music, and it sounded like it was coming from all directions. And then she said she heard a voice, basically, not necessarily in her head, but she heard a voice, loud and clear distinction, that said, there are some books that it is wished to be written, and you can write them. Will you do so? And she says, absolutely not. No, I am not going to. And then there's some reply like, wise people don't make hasty decisions, or something like that. And she just completely dismissed the idea and didn't even tell her husband about it when she went home. She just like completely forgot about it. But apparently also part of the reply was that I'll give you time to think about it. In 3 weeks or something, I'm going to ask you again. I'm not going to accept your first answer. I'm not going to accept no for an answer, the first answer. So then, because her concern was she didn't want to have anything to do with psychism.
Okay.
She didn't want to do any automatic writing or be a
Right.
medium or
Right.
anything like that. She greatly detested that. And she was afraid of it too, because she thought you might lose your sanity or, so
Yeah.
she's like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm hearing some voice wanting to talk to me. No! So, apparently, I think it was 3 weeks. Cycle of 7, 3 sevens. Something like that. She hears the voice again. And she, again, refuses. Absolutely, no, I'm not going to do it. But then he goes on to explain, it's not really me that wants this. It's your own master, Kuthumi. And the voice supposedly she was hearing was Master Dwell Kul, who was a disciple of Kuthumi. So he gave her a technique of how to talk to him through the psychic telephone, like Madame Blavatsky would use to talk to KH and stuff when they're writing there, So she did this, I don't know, is it like a meditation or something? And so she talked to him, and also, now I need to go back. Because when she was 15, living in the UK, apparently this Kuthumi had visited her he opened the door and sat down beside her and said that she needed to get control of herself, that there was some work for him that she could do in the future. At that time, she was very rebellious and having, fits of rage and temper tantrums and stuff. He said, if you can show true self-control, then, you can, there's something planned for you, basically. And so then so it's that guy or something like that. Oh, no, Right. See, now I need to back up again because she had saw his photo in the Theosophical wall painting. Okay. And she recognized him because she did not know his name. She didn't know who he was. She knew nothing about Theosophy.
Excuse me, I'm not trying to be funny. Actually, a medical condition. Thank you for sharing.
It's not them interrupting. No, it's you.
I know. Okay, so as we continue with the biography of Alice Bailey, as reinterpreted by Rose Ann Bates.
Well, you can read it for yourself in the autobiography.
There we go.
So don't take
There
my
we
word
go.
for it. You know, and I know Theosophists have their own. Some Theosophists have their own version of, or skeptic or whatever. But this is what I'm just quoting from her biography.
So-
True or not, you know.
But you were very attracted to this spiritual story.
I must finish. I'm sorry we're taking so long. I'll be quick. So anyways, so she recognized him. She said, okay, that's the guy that visited me. And then, I don't know, I think that was a couple years later, then she heard this music on their sound, I don't think it was music, it was this note on the hill. And then she had this, she talked to him telepathically, apparently, through this technique that DK had given her. And he said, it's me that wants you to write these things, you know, and then DK was the guy that was KH had put in charge of doing this. And then, so at first, they wrote the first book through, you know, basically that same means. And he said, well, just try it out for a while and see. Because she didn't agree to do it. She says, well, okay, I'll try it, and then we'll see how things go, and then I may quit, you know. So, I believe she did do it for like a couple months, and then she said she wanted to quit because she was afraid she might go like crazy or something. She said, I got 3 little girls to take care of, and I can't afford losing my sanity. And he's like, oh, it's not going to happen. You don't have to worry about this. This is not, you know, it's not like possession. It's not like becoming it wasn't automatic writing or anything like that. I wouldn't even call it channeling. Because channeling is, from my understanding, it's more of like, I don't know, you have to talk to somebody that channels, that like gets impressions or something, but this was a clear telepathic, not even like, I know your mind or what you're thinking. This was just like, I don't know how to explain it, because they say that they create a vacuum in space, you know, like when Madame Blavatsky that's how you even teleport things, you know, would talk to, how they communicate, is they create some type of vacuum in space that creates like this channel sort. I mean, it's almost like wireless internet.
But you,
or a satellite, something like that.
But Blavatsky and Alice Bailey, they would always be conscious too.
Yeah, well,
of
she was
them.
fully conscious.
Because sometimes the channel is not.
Yeah.
They lose
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
The trance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So she didn't want to have anything to do with trances.
That's very dangerous, right?
Yeah. So she said she's always fully conscious in control of
Yeah.
all of her senses and functions. She wasn't doing automatic writing or anything like that. So, you know, and then she finished. It was 30 years work. They started at 1919, I believe, or maybe a little bit. Yeah, I think it was 1919, all the way till 1949, and you know, 30 something, 24 something books came out of it, and there's very theosophical, and it just expounded upon theosophical teachings. It did add a few new elements that maybe some people don't quite, because they do talk about politics a little bit some places, and it added about the rays, the 7 rays, which are in the sacred doctrine, but they're not called rays, and it's a little terminology, you know.
So one, just to play devil's advocate, some once in a while I hear people saying that maybe Bailey places too much emphasis on the personality, and that you can cause some attachment. It's just one other.
Her books, see, from my opinion, from my study of this, Theosophy is like, it's like the technical workings of creation, absolute. It deals with like the, I'm going to use a ray term, like the third ray. It's very third ray. Nobody knows what the heck I'm talking about. It's practical. It's, you know, it's about the nature of things, and that Bailey is a little bit more of the psychological, not necessarily interpretation, but part of man, and it deals with transforming your psyche or psychology into getting rid of, like, processes of how to, they teach a lot about, like, the personality, in the sense that you has to know yourself so that you can see what limitations you have to transcend in order to become a pure channel for your higher self. It's very, very similar to the voice of the silence. The voice of the silence is all about that.
Good answer.
Yes.
Good answer.
Yes.
And so what generally, we're still going to talk about the truck.
Okay. So I'm 13.
Yeah.
I read to her, then I think, wow, these books sound, if it's true, then I should check this out. So I start reading them. I'm immediately gravitated toward them. Immediately get a sense of, worth in them, not just like something that's meaningless, and they expand my view of the world and reality to an enormous degree. And I was just, because at that time I was also going through a crisis,
Mm-hmm.
and this was a big help in that.
Right. And what kind of crisis?
Psychological.
Psychological crisis. Okay. And well, as we talked about a little bit in the pre-interview, crisis is spiritually speaking sort of a best friend, because it definitely kind of makes you give up your old lesser gods, right, of logic and self-sufficiency, and look for something lower sufficiency, to use that language, and it definitely opens you up, I think, right, to something bigger.
Which, because I had this intense wanting to know, why was I here? Why were anybody here? Not just me. What is this all about? Why do we, because I believed in reincarnation, so why do we keep reincarnating and reincarnating? Like, what's going on? Why does the world even exist? Why does the universe exist? Why is any of this here? And I was not satisfied. It might be called divine discontent.
Divine discontent. And did your
Yeah.
junior high school have a class in divine discontentment?
Oh no!
Oh, it didn't.
Oh, so sadly.
Could you talk to your parents about divine discontent?
I could have, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
This was
you're
a
13.
very private
Yeah.
thing. They didn't even know what was going on with
Right.
me.
Right.
They didn't even know anything was going on with me. I hope they're not watching. But anyways, I really, all the things people look forward to growing up, and getting a whatever. It did not interest me. It didn't. It's like, then what? And then what? So we go through this thing and we live life like this. We get a job, or we get married and we have a family. And then what? What's the purpose of that? And then what? So, I had to have some answers. So some people might say, oh, that influenced me and biased me. Maybe, but it drove me. And I didn't open up Alice Bay and, oh, there's the answer.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
It was a long process, and it's a continuing process. But it gave me enough to realize I have to go through this process, because one of the biggest things was, like, okay, if I just end it all, I'm going to just reincarnate, and then I'm going to start all over again, and then I'm going to be right back where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just horrible. Like, no, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
I had to go through the suffering of it. I had to, at the time, I didn't know a crisis is a blessing, but...
No. You're right. No matter how much, even if you
Yeah.
did, quote unquote, know it, when you're in it, it's, who cares about that? And then we talked a little bit in the pre-interview.
So I'm fortunate I had that there available. If you're going through this, and if I didn't have internet, which we didn't really have at that time, that was like 90, when I'm 13, it's like 92, and there'd be nothing on the internet anyway. So, I just said my age, okay. No, it wasn't 92, it was 90, I'm 13, it was 94. Okay.
And we talked about...
Well, the internet was, I heard, 92, so 2 years. Okay. And I did have the first Amiga computer. My brother got the Commodore 64.
I remember that computer.
And they even would log on to the internet, to these little bulletin board things. So
Oh,
I was
really?
exposed to the internet from a very early age. And we had those floppy disks, the big square ones that are floppy, a real floppy disk. Yeah, and 1 megabyte was like huge, and yeah, you have a game or a hard drive, or, you know. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you would only be interrupting yourself, wouldn't you? That was a joke.
Was I supposed to laugh?
No, you don't have to laugh at the jokes.
Is there a little cue laugh now?
Okay, so we were talking about 7-year cycles, and
Yes.
and at 14 you had another kind of opening up and catapult.
Yeah, I would put the 13, 14 all in the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would just.
21 at 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that.
Well, yeah, at 21, so I studied Bailey all the way up to like 21, and then I I knew of Theosophy, but through Bailey, and I knew of Madame Blavatsky, and 21, I really wanted to know, who is she, because she was such revered woman, and so much is said about her, known about her, so I wanted to know who she was. I didn't know anything about her. I knew nothing about her, so I go to the internet. And at that time, 21, what's the year? That must be the year 2002. That's right. And there was stuff on there, but not like there is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to find like a biography and some other things. And I wish I had pursued it further, because that was a chance. It was a window for me, and I got distracted with other things.
Okay.
So
21.
that cycle kind of passed, and the cycle didn't occur again till 28.
Okay.
And then I have I get distracted with lots of things in life and doing mundane things. And, I'm studying too, but then I get into trucking, and oh my God, that's a huge distraction, because then I don't have time and, different things. But then again at 28, even though while I am trucking, there's this intense urge. We must study Theosophy and its roots. So again, I stumbled upon BlavatskyArchives.net. Amazing website. So much on there. I'm so thankful for Daniel Cadwell and the others that have contributed to it. And he's got this book he wrote, Incidences in Life of Madame Blavatsky. And he had it online. So I started reading about events in her life and the phenomenon. Phenomenon is it's a very, people are fascinated by it, and it's a big crowd attractor,
Right.
like a magicians or anything,
Right.
but this is like real stuff, it's not like Harry Houdini or what's his
Yeah.
other name?
David Blaine.
Yeah, and what's the other game? Chris Angel. I just saw him the other day, but anyways.
Yeah.
So, I also had an intriguement of how things work, so that kind of tied into this. So, I'm reading her stories, from his stories, and I can't put it down. It's on my computer, but I'm glued to it for days until I finish it.
And this is at 28.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then that gets me into the Mahatma letters. They were
Uh-huh.
also online by order of the book, because I liked the book.
Yeah.
And then I get HPV's letters to AP Senate, because that gives you, I don't know why I got it, but
Yeah.
I want because then that you read that one with the Mahatma letters, and I got the chronological version, which I recommend to everybody, because it really helps you follow, sequentially history from the society, the founding of it, and because they talk about some of it in the letters, and I like it a lot better. And then if you have Blavatsky's letters, she sometimes talks about the same things in the book, and you can kind of get a bigger picture of what's going on, which can be quite difficult at first if you don't have any background history of the society and what was going on at that time. They're talking about these things like, what are they talking about? So those two go really good together. And
What are some of the things you like about Mahatma letters?
because also with Bailey,
Mm-hmm.
she talked about the masters somewhat, but usually in just their higher sense. Doesn't talk much at all about their personalities, or you even wonder, do they even have personalities? What are these people? What do they do? Do they just sit on a hill and meditate all day, or there's this big void, in my opinion, of what this other side of them, what they are. Of course, they're not their personalities, but they have it. From studying the Theosophy part of that, it really helped fill in a lot of blanks and made them much more relatable. and understandable. So that was a big picture, because I see all this as like a portrait, or a painting. Not a portrait, a painting, a landscape painting. And there's this, like this back here, and there's this big blank right back here, like, what's over there? You see a little bit, it looks like a mountain, but what color is the mountain? What, does it have any streams? That's a tree, but I'm gonna visualize it a mountain. So Theosophy helped fill in the color of the mountain.
Yeah.
So, when I got more of a grasp of the principles of Theosophy, it really helped me, because I see that Bailey and Theosophy is, and it really helped me anyway, get a deeper understanding of Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
And Bailey, I think when she wrote her books, the assumption was that you would already have studied Theosophy and you would have already studied, have an esoteric background, versus like me just starting with Bailey. But, you can do both, but for me it was a big addition. Yeah.
And you have said that you might be joining us online. We have on Thursdays, 12:30 Central Time, we have a Mahatma Letters discussion group. And you might be joining us from your truck,
Yes.
perhaps. So you live a very unique and interesting life. And tell us a little bit about trucking with your father. And
Yes.
Yeah.
I drive a semi-truck.
you have a semi
One of those big ones, the 18-wheelers.
all over the country.
All over the country. We go from everywhere.
And lots of this spiritual search and learning has gone on from the truck, right? I mean, so to speak.
I have to.
Yeah.
I'd rather do
Yeah.
it from home because then I don't have
Sure.
any interruptions. But
Yeah.
like when I was the 28 cycle thing, I was in the truck moving, and that was tough because
Yeah.
I'm trying to read, and then I get interrupted. Oh, I gotta come drive,
Yeah.
And I'm getting something about that age. It's really like a window,
Yeah.
and you have to seize it when it's there because. I don't know if any of the people have had this experience or not, but when you read something, you it almost gets into the Buddhic or intuitive
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
and you're going a little bit beyond the analytical lower mind. You're getting
Yeah.
to the higher mind, and I could just like read one phrase real slowly and just get like all this information beyond
I
the
see.
sentence,
Yeah,
especially Moria's cosmological notes. There's like two ways you can read it. You can read it just the words on the page.
Yeah.
But if you really are in this state, it's a state you're in. It's almost like a meditative state, but you're fully conscious and thinking. And you get in that state and you read it, and then it's like wave and wave of like, And that's difficult while you're in a truck because you get these interruptions.
I'm sure. I don't mean to laugh.
Yeah.
It sounds almost impossible.
Yeah,
But-
but I have to make it possible.
Right,
so,
right,
yeah.
right. And you do, and
Yeah.
and you've been able to travel, or you travel all over the country,
Yeah.
and you've been able to stop into some other lodges
Yes, I
in
have.
different points of the country.
Yeah, we were laid over a while back in Los Angeles. Didn't have any load or anything to do, so go on the internet and there's a secret doctrine study class, at
Yeah.
the ULT lodge somewhere in the Los Angeles area. I don't know
Mhm.
exactly where, but
Mhm.
we left our trailer, was able to go out there with just the truck part.
Yeah.
Found parking, luckily.
And this is we're definitely getting off track here, but so what do you think of this country of ours? What kind of state is it in? Have
Ah.
yeah, I mean you're out there at in the front line.
Good question.
Yeah.
It's quite, because my background's California. I born there, I grew up there, never left the state.
Where in California?
I was like born in Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz.
But we moved all of my life, something in my chart, okay?
Yeah.
Movement,
Movement.
constant movement. But then we moved we moved when I was born 1 year later, then we moved when I was 5, then we moved again when I was
Yeah.
7, so
Movement.
lots of movement. So
Yeah.
I've been through all different parts of California. And now I'm constantly moving, so it went from cycles of moving every 3 years to continually. But maybe this, because I've been moving for the last 7 years, so maybe the 7-year cycle. So what's going to be the next 7? Who knows? Maybe it'll be stay put for 7. I don't know, or maybe it'll be worldwide movement. So, anyways, so I have a very Californian. I didn't know it was the Eden of the country. forgive me, all the other states. But, you know, I didn't, oh, I shouldn't brag about it.
You say whatever, please, please.
Well, California, I didn't know. I always want to know, like, what was back east? What was it like beyond that mountain range? Or what was
Yeah.
it like over here? And,
Yeah.
you know, we did one road trip when
Uh-huh.
I was like 21, actually. We went back to, like, Kentucky to see some of the Abraham Lincoln historical sites.
Oh,
Week or two trip. And that was the only exposure outside of California I'd had. And, it's, well, we can go about the weather, but you're asking about the psychic, the feeling and that sort of thing. But, so I had been sheltered, basically, a Californian sheltered, you know, and I didn't experience the rest of the country until we got into trucking. And, it's very, different in a lot of the places you go.
yeah, very different.
Yeah, the
So,
South and the
so it's
New
not all
England states.
California.
No, it's not. That's what I thought it was. And
Right.
then everything was like California.
Right.
It's not.
What is it like?
Well, I'm gonna have to go to Alice Bailey here because then I'm gonna have to go into the Rays.
Okay, okay.
And to really understand what the United States is like, you can't really compare it from state to state. You have to compare it from a global thing. And I haven't traveled too much globally except to the Philippines and just recently in June to Finland and Norway.
Oh,
Yes, you didn't get that in the pre-interview, did
I
you?
didn't get it. I didn't get that.
So I can compare it to those couple weeks, you know, from the what part of Europe do you call that? Well, anyways, I know they have a name, Scandinavia. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So I can compare it to that, and I'm sure if I had more world, then I could really, if you really want to know what the United States is like, you got to compare it from a global perspective.
Very
so,
true.
Um,
Well, all right. So, what is your impression of the?
the United States is
Yeah.
more feeling.
Is it
Compared
compared to Scandinavia?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
Europe,
Uh-huh.
which has its virtues and vices, you know.
Mhm,
But because like over there, please don't get upset at me. You're watching from Finland or Norway. They seem to be more analytical, more
Yeah, yeah.
mental, more studious as a whole,
Uh huh.
you know. But I shouldn't say anything. It could be interpreted the wrong way. But whereas the United States, in my opinion, from my limited perspective of, you know, is more what's the word here I'm looking for? More into, you know, they're more socially engaging. Oh
Yeah.
wait, that's not the right word either. Socially engaging, no. That's what they are in the South, but that's why they don't like California because, you know, they say nobody talks to you, you know, and that's what some Southern people have told me, you know,
Yeah.
like they don't like the West or California because nobody talks to you. So.
So it maybe.
Besides when I'm wanting it to fall off in the ocean, but that's true. You'd be amazed how many people want California. But never mind, we won't go into that.
So there's maybe different pockets within the U.S. that are different from each other,
Oh, definitely.
and
yeah. And sometimes when we go there, they could say, "I could just tell by looking at you, you were different. You know, we
Yeah.
know you're not from around here."
Yeah.
So.
yeah.
In some of these areas, a lot of areas, people have never even gone outside of their little circle or state or little city.
Right.
Yeah. and
Right.
So you're influenced by your environment and what ideas or thoughts are in that. You know, if you don't have exposure through the internet or whatever, you know, travel, then, you know, that's your world.
So so you've had a life of constant movement, as you were saying.
Well, not all my life. Not constant. Only constant since I started driving the truck, which I was 24. Yeah.
So there's a quote from a book called Magic Mountain by Tomas Mann. He's a novelist, and in this book he says, and it's not a metaphor. He says literally that, just as time, distance between an incident or an experience, will give you a very, very different perspective. He also felt that travel will literally, just like time, work to give you a different perspective on an interstate or something that happened.
Yeah.
So have you found that to be true?
I certainly can see the time because we can think back of
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
happened 10 years ago and we see it totally different now than when we're
Yeah.
in it. And so travel,
How about travel?
I would say if you were localized
Yeah.
and you had this contrast of travel, then yes. But if you're constantly traveling, then I'm not really sure where I can relate to it because that's your norm. But
Yeah.
if you had just been sitting or living in one little area for all your life and then all of a sudden you start traveling the world, yeah, you're going to have a big, see things totally differently. So
Mm.
that's,
And
that's a good question. I'm not really sure how to answer that.
in the truck, you when you have a chance to stay in one area for a little bit, you check out to see maybe sometimes if there's a lodge you might be interested in.
Mhm.
Do you also check out bookstores? You have a chance to do that, or
Not really.
you have the
no.
internet access?
Yeah, and I have so much books I'm carrying around
Yeah, right.
already. Like, oh my gosh.
And so now let's kind of segue into, or no segue, just jump. How then would you define theosophy? Let's say you're at a truck stop,
At a
And,
truck stop, okay.
and the waitress asks, "Do you want a refill of your coffee?" And how would you, young lady, define theosophy?
Well, if she's asking me about coffee, why am I going to talk about theosophy?
Let's say, touche. Let's say she fills up your coffee, and then that's taken care of. And there's that space that we were talking about, which is important for growth and
Okay.
questions, deep questions.
Uh-huh.
And she seizes it,
Uh-huh.
and she says, "Rose,
Assuming she knows my name,
See,
okay.
if
I'm
you
wearing
have
my
a-
name tag.
you have well, let's say you got your name tag on."
Okay.
And she says, "Rose, what is theosophy?"
Or maybe she sees me reading something. Well, first I'm going to try to size her up a little bit. Okay,
Right.
she trying to convert me, or is she seriously interested? Because if she's going to try to oh, you got something bad there, I might give her a different answer than if I think she's really interested. Then, then I'm going to. Oh, I see. I would tell her it's an ageless wisdom. It's something that. That there's always been the outer understanding and knowledge that we have, but there's also been mystery schools from way back. For multiple reasons, they were mystery, and because people know the history, so they don't need to go into that. Sometimes it was dangerous to be studying certain things, if you had to avoid the Inquisition. Other times it's dangerous on another level where if you develop certain faculties, perhaps, it might be dangerous to yourself or to others for you to be developing something maybe you shouldn't know about. So there's multiple reasons of why something has to be kept secret or hidden. And theosophy was I'm going to use the word modern because we're talking large centuries here, modern presentation, even though it was started in 1875, of this ancient do we call it knowledge or wisdom or
I think you can
philosophy?
say either. Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes, in it, and it provides an alternative if you've only been exposed to the church and the religious, whatever religious it is, which is, I shouldn't say alternative, that's the wrong word. A deeper understanding or deeper level of getting behind, like some of the religious texts, getting behind what does it really mean. Getting into some of as all the word esoteric means is hidden. So you're getting into, because a lot of the stories are allegorical, they're symbolic, they're not necessarily meant to be interpreted literal. Some people might disagree, but if you take the symbolic approach, then you want to know, well, what does this allegory mean? What are they talking about? What does it mean? So if you go from that basis, and theosophy, I think, can answer a lot of those questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice answer.
Yeah, so, if you're looking for something more than, than what's on the surface, you want to get into a deeper understanding, then, it's got the Trinity in there, it's got the three principles, it's got creation, which isn't really creation, it's But we want to go into the absolute, and quantum physics is getting into it too. So it's, yeah.
And during one of our interruptions, you noticed the drama mask that we have in the children's area, and in the pre-interview, you were also talking about how important it is.
This would be the pre-interview, the one after the pre-interview, the take one.
Post.
Oh, I don't know.
All right. Well, and anyways, you.
It was at an intermission.
During,
okay.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, during one of the interruptions,
Yes.
you noticed this mask,
Yeah.
and you noticed how it's interesting. You had a take on it with the personality, the persona.
I thought it was weird. It's his mouth
his
on the
mouth
top
is
of his forehead.
Because right, and so that's always sitting there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then if you turn it upside down, of course, we get the other side. But this is the side that some of us are in when we do deeper spiritual searching. At least when we start.
Dark night of the soul.
Dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
And let's say that somebody out there is going through something of a dark night of the soul, something of a crisis of faith or crisis period, whatever it's
great compassion to whoever that.
right,
yes.
and right, great compassion,
Yeah.
right, because
Yeah.
they're great opportunities, but they're hard.
Oh yeah.
So give some recommendations, because you've kind of embraced yours, and so what would you recommend to people? Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Well, it's nothing that you read or nothing anybody's going to tell you is going to make it any better.
Compassion in action.
There's no switch that's going to turn on and you're going to understand everything now. No, it's a internal process that can be quite long and painful depending upon, but I think everybody comes from different backgrounds, so if their background inclines them, or they feel inclined towards more of a theosophical or Alice Bailey or esoteric study, there is, in my opinion and my personal experience, there is things in there that can help you see the bigger picture. And it's from that bigger picture, if you know where you're going, and then you can understand a little bit of why certain things are going, it's certain processes you're going through, because a lot of these things are psychological. You might be having to overcome glamour, because glamour is one of the veils.
Glamour in the esoteric spiritual sense.
Yes, it's one of the, because it distorts our vision of perception of reality, and I went through one of those stages, and it was quite, But, so if we can recognize that, if we know it, then we can separate, okay, this is the experience and this is me, and we can get a little bit of, as Eckhart Tolle would say, space between that, and then we can take it from a observer point of view. You might not be able to think clearly and or have understanding. You're going through all this, but you say, okay, those are just my emotions, but they're not me. These are my thoughts, but they're not me. These are, my experiences, but still they're not me. And in that if you can get into that space of your inner self, that I consciousness, which is also the one consciousness, not just the personality I, but you know what I mean. Maybe they do too, I don't know. But that's going to give you a little bit of strength and peace in order to carry you through, if you don't get so caught up in the the difficulty of whatever it is. And then your mind, for me anyway, my mind would try to go through certain things of, you're not going to figure it out, but you get little pieces that help complete the picture. Our pictures are always changing. You'll never have a complete picture. But if you just have a little bit of that understanding, then you can think about, if you have a knowledge of what's going on and what you need to do, then you can start to do it. But if you're left in ignorance and you don't know what to do or what's going on, then it's a lot harder, I think.
Yeah, you were talking about, to make it a little easier, creating space. And why does that help? What do you mean more? Could you talk more about, what do you mean create space? And then why is that a good thing? Talk more about
Why do you give me the hard ones?
Inner space. Because you said I could.
Ah.
Hold on. Think about it. Create space. I'm going to make sure that there's tape here. Oh. All right. Contemplate that.